we're going to talk about Sly 2 Band of Thieves, a game that's miles ahead of its predecessor.
When a game series starts off, no one knows where it'll go from the first game. Not even the developers until the sales figures come in. The first Sly Cooper does leave off at a cliffhanger, although not much of one, but enough to set up a sequel. When you play Sly 2, it feels like a completely different game in comparison. While Jak 2 improved upon the formula from Jak and Daxter, Sly 2 just completely rewrote what Sly 1 had done. It's still a platform game with stealth elements, but the way in which you play the game has been vastly improved. No life system, no one-hit mechanic, no running through levels to get keys to get to the boss, and no linear level design.
The archaic mechanics that made the first Sly Cooper game feel older than what it is are gone, so this way it's brought up to the current standards of the 6th generation of gaming.
Now what I mean by standards is that the life system is gone in favor for retrying from the last checkpoint. With memory saves and checkpoints, lives and continues were pointless, unless the game is built around a life mechanic in mind. The one-shot mechanic is replaced with the life bar, and the hub world and levels are ditched in favor for an open world environment. Along with these gameplay improvements, the character models are updated, especially for Bentley and Murray. The game looks just as good as last, if not better, and there's nice little touches like when an enemy is defeated, an onomatopoeia pops up. And the art for the cutscenes has been improved greatly. It's a lot cleaner and more bold.
It's quite obvious that they had a much bigger budget for Sly 2. In fact, it feels like this is how Sly 1 should have been. And who knows, when the PS4 comes about, we might get a remake.
The character animation during in-game cutscenes is stiff and rigid, but it keeps in line with that whole comic book feel that they were going for. However, when you're in control of the characters, the animation is very smooth and fluid. Kevin Miller, Matt Olson, and Chris Murphy return to voice Sly, Bentley, and Murray respectively, and they all do an amazing job, their voices matching the characters perfectly. Roxana Ortega does not return to voice Carmelita, instead being replaced by Alyssa Glidewell. In this game, Carmelita does not have a Spanish accent, but the voice fits the character more, although that is hard to say as she has more lines and a bigger role in this game than the previous one. The music for the worlds plays well with the atmosphere, allowing you to immerse yourself fully into the game world.
And you know that you're fully immersed into a game when you realize that your bladder is about to explode because you've been playing the game for 7 hours without a break.
In addition to playing as Sly, you get to play as Bentley and Murray, who have their own unique style of play. Sly plays like he did in the first. He's very agile and very unrestricted in where he can go and how he can travel, jumping from place to place, running and climbing along ropes. However, you can't just barge into places whacking enemies with your cane like you could in the first. Enemies take more than one hit, and there are a lot more of them this time around. So your goal is to be sneaky, and Sly can now pickpocket. Bentley takes a lot more caution, as he can't be as sneaky as Sly and has a lot slower type of gameplay. He can put enemies to sleep, but you need to activate your binoculars first. It would have been nicer to not be required to go into first-person perspective all the time. He also has a series of hacking minigames that are based on the one from the first game. Murray can take the most hits and does the most damage, and has to do things that Sly and Bentley can't as they're not strong enough.
Because of the lack of levels, the game is broken up into a series of jobs, giving it that feel of Ocean's 11, and I like it. This is how a game about a group of thieves should go.
Because of the added complexity, Sly 2 is about 15 hours long. 3 times longer than the first, so you're definitely getting your money's worth. And even though you play as Bentley and Murray, they don't forget whose name is on the cover, as Sly has the most jobs to do, and they are the most difficult and will take longer to complete, but they are also the most fun. The controls are just as good as the first, but instead of controlling your speed with the analog stick, you have to hold R1 if you want to run, which gives more control over the characters. Although Sly's context-sensitive thief abilities have caused some issues where I would grab onto or land onto something I didn't intend to a few times. But this mostly happens in the Prison Break chapter because there's just so much stuff to jump around on.
The story takes place 2 years after the first game. The Cooper gang want to steal and destroy the Clockwork body parts. Although I do kind of wonder why they took 2 years to do this.
After the defeat of Clockwork, the villain from the first game who lived for thousands of years due to his hatred of the Cooper line for being better thieves than him, his mechanical body was taken to a museum for reasons that aren't really explained. The Cooper gang plans to steal the Clockwork parts in order to destroy them once and for all. Why they didn't go back and destroy them after they gave Carmelita the slip in the first game, I don't know. They find that the parts have already been stolen. Carmelita accuses the Cooper gang while her new partner Neela says that it could have been the Claw gang, sending Sly Cooper and his gang to find the 5 Claw gang members and take back the Clockwork parts.
The story is really good. It takes a couple of twists and turns that are pretty surprising, so I'm not going to spoil it for you.
The bottles and coins make a return from the previous game but serve different purposes. You can use coins to buy gadgets, some of which are mandatory for Sly. There are 30 bottles in each episode that will allow you to access the safe so you can obtain new moves. So there's a lot less required to get 100%, but requires more exploration. The difficulty can swing between more difficult than the first or easier. It can be difficult due to the increased enemies and added complexity, but it can be easier with the open world and health bar. So when it comes to difficulty, it's all a matter of how you take to it. Overall, the game has aged very well, certainly better than the previous game, and it's still a really fun game.
If Sly 1 was good, then Sly 2 Band of Thieves is even better. It defined the series as other games would follow suit. Unfortunately, Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves is the weakest of the series.